sometimes what we find is really happening is that the people are taking advantage of it. They're specifically not listening to what we need, or they're specifically kind of turn into sort of a whiny, needy person, where they are trying to kind of get away with extra things at different times. And after a while, we just kind of go, enough. I don't want to be a cold-hearted, difficult business owner. I don't want to sit there and have to watch you every minute and make sure you come in on time and leave on time. I didn't hire you in order for me to be a parent again. I hired you so that you would be independent, self-motivated, and self-respecting, and respecting of me. Okay, does that sound like any of you? Does that sound like you? Are you that type of business owner? Have you found yourself wanting to behave that way, or maybe slipping into it from time to time? Okay. Now let's talk about the discipline punishment style. Now, the discipline punishment style supposedly is very clear, very concise. You lay out what you're expecting. You follow through. You're consistent. You have a recurring schedule. You show up at a certain time, they leave at a certain time, and, for a kid, their nap is at a certain time. For an employee, it would be their lunch break is at a certain time. They show up, they get the job done, and they do it because you asked them to do it. And the sense of that, or the assumption of that, is that they behave because you're asking them to behave. And then they talk about, the advantages of that specifically is that the job gets done, the jobs are well-defined, everybody knows what's expected of them because it's very clearly defined. And at the same time, how do I put this? It's like a well-oiled machine. The machine knows what it's supposed to do. The difficulty of that, and what people have described as the downside of that, right, that is, that for those of you who relate to this approach, the difficulty or the downside of that specifically is people don't feel like they have a personalness in their work. Their work is not about them. It's not about their level of achievement. It's not about whether or not they have created something new. It's not about them being able to craft something and have their personal stamp on this world and have been able to achieve something greater than maybe they wouldn't be able to achieve if they were at home without this job. So there's no personal stamp. And the difficulty I have seen is that you also can get a whiny employee. And the whiny employee says, well, you didn't tell me how to do it right. Or you need to give me more details on how the project needs to go, because they feel cornered all the time. And that if they don't get it done, the discipline part's great, but the punishment part, you're going to be punished if they don't get it right. And they're like, well, I don't want to be punished. So they're whining to get around the punishment but you didn't give me enough information. You didn't set me up for success. That's not going to be their words, but some version of that. I need you to give me every last little detail. And after a while, you're kind of like, look, I hired you to think for yourself. I hired somebody who I thought would be competent. I have been very detailed and very directed with you, and why can't you just move forward with what I've given you? Why do you have to whine at me as if I haven't been incredibly clear with you? And then the person that generally leans towards that approach, if you happen to be one of those people, if you lean towards that particular approach, then you get into micromanaging. And they encourage the micromanaging by being whining. And that's a negative cycle, and not a cycle that you want to be involved in. Right? After a while, even the business owner gets tired of it. Look, enough. Okay? The third style was avoidance and neglect. And avoidance and neglect might be a good description as a parent. I think the best description for a small business owner on the avoidance neglect style is what I call the overwhelmed owner. Their quote unquote, their discipline style is inconsistent. They lack follow-through. Their response to something, if they don't know what to do about it, is to avoid it, which therefore means they're not only avoiding that thing that needs to get done, they're avoiding the employee that's associated with that thing. And what you're left with is either an employee that will hypercompensate, i.e. start trying to take leadership positions away from you and try to be the leader, or you end up with somebody who will be the opposite direction, which is that they don't get anything done and they have a tendency to be too relaxed. They can be whiny in any series of different ways. Okay, so if you have too much of any one of these styles, you're going to run into the whiny employee or the unhappy employee for those reasons. The avoidance and neglect style what I call the overwhelm style for the employee, I think is particularly common. And I'm not trying to badmouth anybody into itself. I'm really not. What I'm saying is that I really do find that it's true. We as small business owners are overwhelmed. We are overworked. We are doing everything from CFO to janitor and back again. And sometimes it just feels like it's blatantly just too freaking much. And we look for having employees to help us out on that front. But the overwhelmed style leads to this highly irregular follow-through and discipline, a highly variable relationship with your employees. They don't know what you want when you want it. Sometimes you follow through. Sometimes you need something from them. Sometimes you need something. I often need something from them ASAP. Oh my God, I now need this now. And then on the other side, the employee feels like they get no feedback for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden the employer walks in and goes, no, I need this done. Why couldn't you get it done right? And I was like, well, you didn't tell me how to do it right. As a matter of fact, you barely gave me the project to begin with. So I really feel like the overwhelmed style is particularly common in small business owners. And one of the things they talked about in the seminar I was in today specifically was they talked about how you're not necessarily just one of these. You might have a tendency to retreat to one of these styles, or you might fluctuate between these two styles. Might be avoidance, neglect, sometimes, and at other times being punishing. You might be avoidant, and then when you are talking to your employees at the times when you're not feeling overwhelmed and not feeling overstressed, you might try to be very loving and very connected with them. So my thought is this. Let me offer this thought, because this is really what I'm hoping to get to. Once you've taken the time to identify what is your style, whether it's your default style or what is the style that you have a tendency to fall into, contemplate that. Take a look at it. What are my styles? What do I drop into as a default? Do I have a tendency to be overwhelmed, which I think I know I've caught myself being overwhelmed, and therefore I do the neglect. And then once I do step in, I'm what? How are you? If you're a punishment person and you're a micromanager, what does that mean? Is that your default style, and therefore you spend a lot of time managing your managers and a lot of time feeling like that the management that you're doing of your employees or of your independent contractors ends up being too detailed, and they end up showing up not as competent independent contractors, but sort of whiny independent contractors? Is that your style? And if your style is to be loving, which a lot of business owners can, they feel like they're good. I call it the good-hearted business owner. The good-hearted business owner that runs their business wanting to not be the disciplinarian, specifically will try to be the good-hearted business owner, allow a lot of flexibility, a lot of listening to what the employee wants, a lot of giving them what they want. But because they're avoiding the disciplinarian style, they end up not having the discipline and follow-through that brings out the best in their employees. It brings out a sense of accountability, a sense of consistency, and a sense of responsibility. And, I think that's the right words. Responsibility, accountability. So what I'm going to suggest is that the styles end up avoiding each other. The good-hearted business owner ends up avoiding the punishment style, and the discipline style, which has a tendency to drop towards punishment, tries to kind of avoid the soft business owner. Like they're actually avoiding it in that, like, my employee is taking advantage of me. I need to be more disciplined. I don't want to be more loving. I don't want to leave more space for them to take advantage of me. I want to leave them less space to take advantage, because to leave them more space would be too soft, too loving. So I really want you to contemplate that you're avoiding the other half. Are you avoiding the other half of interacting with your employees? Are you avoiding the other half of sitting down and being present to your employees and their individuality? Are you avoiding being that other person? Because if you're avoiding it, that might lead to a hole in your style. It might lead to a hole in your way of interacting with people, and it might lead into that you experience having to work a lot harder. So let's talk about the you in this for a minute. So what is it that's going on in you that you pick these styles? Because that's how you can start undoing the disadvantages of the style. I think each style has an advantage. And I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe merging the styles. But are you avoiding something in doing this? What is it in you? First and foremost, the first question I want every small business owner to think about, and I want you specifically to think about, is am I in some way avoiding or overwhelmed towards my business, towards my employees? Do I feel like I'm working too hard? I'm overwhelmed. I'm anxious. I'm busy, too busy. I'm distracted because I constantly have something on my mind of what I need to do next. And therefore, you're distracted not only from your employees, but you're potentially distracted from your company or your business as a whole. And why I point this out, because your job is leadership. If you're distracted from your employees and you're distracted from what's going on with them, because you're overwhelmed, because you're overworked, you're probably also distracted from what is the trajectory of your business. Is your business fulfilling the mission statement? Are you holding yourself accountable for next season's sales or the sales after that? How can you possibly move forward in your business in such a way that it's really, that you're not only planned for this year or next year, but the next several years? Are you doing your social media marketing? Are you doing your grooming of your business? Are you taking care of the soft skills that need to be involved in your business? The soft times. Soft time is hard. It involves highly important things with how do I put this? Highly leveraged things, highly important things with low urgency attached to them. I can do my marketing plan next month. I can do my, I can start that Twitter account next week. I can add that thing to my Facebook, in several weeks from now. I specifically don't have time for that. I don't have time to do my social media marketing. I don't have time for me to do what I need to get done. That's the soft part of your business that you really want to be focusing and paying attention to. Are you an overwhelmed small business owner, which almost all of us are, and so therefore you can't pay attention to those pieces or you feel like you can't? If you're avoiding this because you're one of those overwhelmed people, then your business will suffer. It doesn't suffer today. It suffers in 6 months. It suffers in 6 months that you didn't put those flyers out today. It suffers in 6 months that you didn't go to your marketing meeting today. It suffers in 6 months that you didn't post that thing to Facebook today. Okay? If you're the over-disciplined, you just might be somebody who's avoiding the connections of networking. You might be avoiding being connected to a social network. You might be avoiding being connected to your Chamber of Commerce. You might be avoiding being connected to engendering customer loyalty. You might be avoiding being the loving person. You might be avoiding getting good training in, or if you get good training in, you might be avoiding for your employees. Now I'm moving on to employees. You might be avoiding having an intimate relationship with your employees, at least intimate enough that they feel that they're seen and therefore stay longer than 2 years. The primary reason why people quit is not so much because of the content of their job and what they're doing in their job, it's because of their immediate manager. That is the primary reason, the first reason why people leave their job, most common reason why people leave their job. Are you the too loving business owner? Are you avoiding being disciplined? Are you avoiding implementing a disciplinary follow-through plan with your employees so that they feel recognized and seen even for their bad work, quote unquote, so that they know that the work that they've done, yeah, they're nice, and you're a nice person, and gee, you're so sweet, and gee, we really love that, but you haven't noticed the project I've done, and you haven't given me a sense of direction, and you haven't given me a sense of, well, where should I go, and how should I implement this project, and what are my goals, and did I hit those goals, and are you going to reward me for those goals? Are you going to notice that I hit those goals? Are you avoiding holding your employees accountable and all of the sense of self-respect they can garner from that because you're focused on being loving? So here's my suggestion. My suggestion is being connected and disciplined. My suggestion is being willing to be connected to your employees, to your business, right? Connected to your employees so that you have an intimate relationship with them one-on-one. They know who you are, you know who they are. But you follow through with a sense of discipline and accountability by keeping track of the projects that you deliver to them, by keeping track of their behavior, by keeping track of their hours. And then when you do choose to discipline them, you choose to follow up with them in what I would consider to be a loving and redirective way. You didn't keep your hours. This is your first warning. I really understand that you had a hard time, and how long do you think this hard time is going to continue for? Oh, it's going to continue for 2 weeks. Can we do something to make that 2-week period accountable? Is there something that the employee can do to bring to you to make that 2-week period accountable? Are they going to stay late? Are they going to get somebody else to cover their shift and make sure it really is 2 weeks? And in 2 weeks, make sure it's been 2 weeks. You know, if it's been 3 weeks, are they still being accountable? And why is it 3 weeks and not 2? You see, that way you're not just loving the employee, you're being connected to the employee. You're keeping track of them. And they know you're keeping track of them, and you're keeping track of their behavior, and you're keeping track of their accountability and responsibility. If I would consider that that's actually part of loving them, is the willingness to keep track of them, the willingness for them to see that you really do pay attention to what it is they're doing. It's kind of part of what a discipline and punishment boss might do, but you're doing it with the loving attached. You're doing it with the what I liked in the speech I was listening today, what I specifically liked was that the discipline that was in the loving and connection approach was that the discipline that was applied was motivational specific. You knew what the motivation was of the employee or the child in this lecture. You knew what the motivation was of the child, so the discipline that you implemented was motivationally correct and appropriate. That is the link I'm looking for. That's the link I'm looking for between the loving or connected boss and the punishment or discipline. I'm not looking for the punishment, and I know that we all want to be loving. Even the disciplinarian boss wants to be loving. So we're not missing the loving. What we want is a follow-through and a discipline and a sense of a plan, and a connected and appropriate plan that is directed towards the motivations of that employee and what's going on for that employee. That is an intimately connected disciplinarian approach. That's my suggestion. Now that's good and that's great. And so if you can do that in relationship to your employees, that would be fantastic. You might spend the next 20 years trying to do that in relationship to your employees. That's great. Can you do it in relationship to your business too? Can you have an understanding of the direction your business needs to go as a whole? The marketing plan, the expenses and income, the growth of the business, where's the trends going in your particular field and industry, and being able to take advantage of those. Can you have an approach that is both stopping to notice those things, be connected to those things, be aware of those things, and then implement a plan that requires follow-through and commitment to that plan in order to take advantage of what you're noticing? So it's not just the noticing, not just being willing to lift your head up and work on your company instead of in your company. It's both the noticing and the capacity to follow through on the plan that you've created. Can you do that in relationship to your business? Instead of being plowed under by the sense of the everyday work and the busyness of your schedule, can you lift your head up and be connected to the business and have that sense of knowing where it's going and crafting it when we created our business, the reason why entrepreneurs and sole proprietors specifically work in the businesses the way we do is that we created the business because we had a vision, because we had a plan, because we had a way we wanted it to work. We saw it going from here to there as a growth, as a maturing process. Have we stayed connected to the growth? Have we stayed connected to the maturing process, to the vision we had of our business being small when we started, but we're going to end up over here. We're going to end up big. We're going to end up with $500,000 in sales. We're going to end up with $10 million in sales. We're going to end up, we may start in this small city called, Arcadia, but we're going to end up being all over Southern California, and I'm going to open up 5 franchises. Have you kept track of the original vision, and have you kept track of the things that you need to do to let the company grow into that vision? This is hard. I mean, I'm a small business owner, guys. I'm right there with you. I intimately know this is hard work. What I'm asking you to do in order to not only work with the employees, that's great, but work with the company. Work with the visioning in the company and staying connected to the vision of your company and being able to steward it into growth by both being connected to the vision and having the discipline to implement the steps that get you there. This isn't easy work. I mean, how much time do we really have to pay attention to our marketing plan? How much time do we really have to implement all this nice, soft, whooshy-gushy stuff that I'm talking about? It looks like, when I talk to you, it may feel like, Christina, where's the bottom line help in this? There's no bottom line in this. There's no direct bottom line in me posting to Facebook. You're right. There's no direct bottom line to you posting in Facebook today. But there is 6 months from now. There's no direct bottom line in you posting to Facebook when you first start Facebook. But there is a year from now when people have become faithful to your page and you've had 500 people like it or 5,000 people like your page. Then you start getting some real momentum and value and benefit from having laid that all out and having created all of that. So I want you to consider this carefully. I want you to consider connection and discipline. And what does it mean to you in relationship to your employees? What kind of person are you? Are you the type of person who is loving and sometimes not disciplined enough? Are you the type of person who's disciplined but sometimes a little too objectifying of the people around you and not really getting their individuality? Are you the type of person who's avoidant and neglect, which is basically, I think, as a small business owner, is overwhelmed because there isn't a lot to do. There isn't a lot that you feel like that you can do to try to be even more connected. Your plate is full. If that's your style, what does that mean to you as a small business owner? What does that mean about the effect in your business, both in your relationship with your employees, but also in relationship to the overall trajectory of your business? What does it mean to you in relationship to your mission statement in your business and your capacity to implement that? So, as usual, my heralding call is to step forward, get present to what it is that you're doing, and see if you can make a difference to make your life and the people that you're touching, their lives, a little bit better and a little bit stronger. It's not an easy process. It happens over time, and it happens only with your discipline and your commitment. Okay, thank you for listening to Ask C First. If you want to contact me directly, you're welcome to contact me at askcfirst@gmail.com, or you're welcome to email me at my account, which is Christina, Christina, @groundlevel.com. Or if you want to make a phone call, you can pick up the phone right now, and you can call me at 626-844-8842. That's 626-844-8842. Pick up that phone, give me a phone call, and say, Christina, I love what you have to say. Or, Christina, this is BS. Or, Christina, here's what I'm up against. Talk to me about that. Because I'm here, guys. I'm here every week to talk to you guys about what it means to be a small business owner and the things that we're up to all the time in trying to make this work.